Was it because you were underage that they let you, or?
I think it was just because they were more watching what was going on with my boyfriend at the time, and
Right.
so, they weren't really trying to get me. They were just...
You were kind of the reason that they could say that they were around.
Yeah.
Like, we're looking for Sam, we seen her.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep.
So
and actually, one of the times that I was a runaway, one of the officers had texted my phone. My mom must have given them my number, and one of our other friends, Jared, he actually messaged the cop back and said, Sam will come home when you bring us some donuts. And then when I got home and the cops were at the house, the first thing they said was, who's the one that made the remark about the donuts? But they couldn't do anything because he, too, was a minor, so...
Right.
Yeah,
well, text messages are hard to prove who actually said it anyways.
Yes,
so, I mean...
Yes, true.
It would come down to your phone, but you could just say someone had my phone.
Yeah, and I mean, it was just the point of, like, I was a runaway so often, and the cops knew me and knew my mom and everything, that it was like a thing. You know, it wasn't out of the ordinary for me to pick on them or for them to pick back at me or anything, because we had so many run-ins with each other.
So everybody was just used to it. So you had kind of a rapport with them where
Yeah.
they didn't really come down too hard on you, per se.
Yeah.
They were just kind of playing the game with you because you kept playing the game too.
Yep, pretty much.
That's crazy. I mean, now that is also a small town world, right?
Yes,
like this isn't
very, very small
a big
town.
city life. The
No.
cops aren't necessarily, they might look at you different in a small town where they might
Yes.
know you or your parents.
Mm-hmm.
Even in school, they just know a lot more about you.
Yeah, and actually the town cop's wife actually worked at the high school I went to, so he knew me from school and from the streets. So, and everybody knows everybody in a small town. It's not like you see somebody walking by and you're like, who's that?
Mm-hmm.
If there's somebody out of the ordinary, everybody in town knows it.
Right, for sure. That's definitely true. Depends on, even in some of the, like city Eau Claire is not 90,000, and that even lives like a small town sometimes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, compared to some of the bigger cities nowadays that are
if you're in
150 million.
Even smaller town, you're definitely gonna know things a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I think there's only like a few thousand people that live there.
Right. So when you were using as a teenager and coming into 18, 19, at what point did you? Was it that young that you realized that it was a problem, or was it fun? Like, when did it actually become a problem?
It was all fun when I was a teenager. Then I got pregnant at 18, and my dad took custody of my son. I gave custody of my son to him at 9 months old, and then him and I had a bad relationship. So then those years I partied. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it because I didn't have my kid.
Right.
He was well taken care of. It wasn't probably until, honestly, before my kids were taken away the very first time that I remember laying in bed one day and I was withdrawing really bad from meth, and I'm going through so many different emotions, and I'm like, no, I can't do this. I gotta stop doing this. I'm gonna text everybody and tell them not to give me any more. Right. And I did. I texted everybody, every single person that I knew that could get it for me, and told them, do not give it to me. I don't care how much I cry, whine, whatever. Block me if you have to. 6 hours later, I was begging everybody for dope, and they were bringing it to me.
And they give in.
Yep.
No matter what. Yeah.
And that's exactly when I knew that I had a problem. That, and when I was smoking meth and falling asleep.
Because your tolerance was so high that
Yep.
it wasn't even keeping you awake.
Yep.
That's crazy.
It was, and that's when I, my mom was kind of trying to not believe what everybody was telling her that I was using, and I obviously wasn't. I obviously was not going to say anything to her.
Mm-hmm.
But we got the opportunity to move into my uncle's house in Menominee, and my mom jumped on it because, she thought that way she could at least take care of my kids for me.
Right.
She basically was just going to do whatever she needed to do to make sure that my kids and I stayed together.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good.
Up until it actually happened.
Right.
Not to throw my mom under the bus or anything.
No.
But she, when they came to test me, and they set up a parenting plan right when my kids were taken, and I knew that I needed about 3 to 5 days to get clean, and I had told my mom they had a meeting set up for Friday, and the original meeting was 7 days prior, so the Friday before. And it was like Tuesday or so, and I told my mom, like, you have to tell them that I'm not, like, I'm going to stay home. I'm not going nowhere. I promise you, like, I will be here until Monday morning, but you have to tell them that I'm not here so that I can get clean over the weekend and then piss clean, and then the kids can stay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my mom ended up going to the meeting with the kids, and coming off of drugs, especially meth, is not, I mean, pretty much the only emotion that you feel on meth and coming off of it is anger.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when I found out that she was actually at the appointment and she had told them that I was at the house, I snapped. I actually told her I was going to slaughter her like a pig.
Wow.
Something that I never really thought that I would tell my mother. But in that moment, you don't really know even what you're saying. And so then they told her that, you know, like, you are not safe with the children, so you
they
can't
told
even...
her that just from you saying that one thing? Like, they took you that seriously
Yep.
in that moment?
Yep. It even says in the paperwork from my parenting plan that I called on the date. I called my mom on the date of it. Actually, the social worker had called me and said, why aren't you here? And I said, because I'm in a wedding. I told you guys that.
Right.
And they're like, nope, your mom told us you're at home and you're hanging up your bedroom door. And I was like, I hung up on her, called my mom, didn't even think they were in the same, you know, didn't even think about it that they were in the same room. And she had me on speakerphone.
Oh, my goodness.
So.
Well, why was your mom trying to out you? Like, your mom's trying to out you? Like, I'm not trying to put bad on your mom. I know your mom. She's a good person.
My mom is awesome. I love my mom to death. But she was looking out for my kids at that point. You know, she was looking out for, you know, she knew that there was a chance that I, you know, was going to turn around and go right back, you know, or anything like that, especially with the guy that I was with, you know. So
so who were you with at that time?
Then I was with John, Journey's father.
Okay.
And I mean, he's got a really long record since he was 12 years old. So
yeah,
she just basically was trying to protect them and get them safe without trying to not make me upset about it. And yeah, it just didn't go the way she planned. She beats herself up for it. So I try not to, you know, it's hard for me. But honestly, my kids being taken away was a blessing in disguise, because there's no way I would have quit.
Right.
There's no way, like, I had to have that taken from, you know, like, the love you have for your kids is a love like no other, and having that taken away from you is a huge eye-opener. Like,
right.
They were taken on November 9th. John was arrested on November 12th, and I quit 3 days later. It was like everything happened right in a row, and God was just like, sit down and shut up. Here we go.
Right.
You know, you're doing this. This is what you need to do. And it was a battle. I mean, I had smoked weed for 11 years, consistently every day, and they wanted me to quit.
Right, and you're not just with weed, you're giving up multiple things too. Like.
Yep, I was, you know, I couldn't do meth, couldn't take pills, couldn't, you know, because I was actually abusing Adderall for, I don't want to say abusing because I wasn't abusing it. Self-medicating is what the doctors call it.
Of course.
I was taking that for a year and a half before I started using meth. I mean, shortly after my daughter Emma was born, she had lots of health issues. And so once I stopped breastfeeding her, I started taking Adderall. And it honestly worked great. I wasn't taking an excessive amount to where I was feeling high. I was just, you know, I was a manager at Hardee's. I was doing really well for myself. And then it went from, you know, I had all these people that I could get Adderall from, and then all of them started doing meth. So then they got their Adderall taken away, and then it was like, well, I guess I have to do meth now, you know?
Right, and Adderall is a weird thing like that, where it's close, it is pretty much meth, isn't it? You know, it's meth crystals, like...
Yep, I actually learned in Al-Anon, when Journey's dad was in treatment, that meth and heroin both. Meth is one molecule off of Adderall, and heroin is the same with Percocet.
That's crazy.
Just one molecule.
That's
Isn't that crazy?
One little thing changes it, so now they can give it to you and make it okay.
Yep.
Gotta love the pharmaceutical companies, right?
No kidding. There's a Tom McDonald song, and it says, Big Pharma doesn't cure you, dog, because every patient that gets cured is a customer lost. And I believe that 100%.
Oh, for sure.
It's ridiculous. Like, it's a population thing, you know, control. But
well, to be honest, it's weird because even this morning when I was driving and I thought in my head, like, I can't believe we live in a society where cancer is looked at more as a moneymaker than something to cure.
Yep.
You know, to me, that's crazy that we are at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we should be trying to heal and recover everybody because there's enough death and ways to die. There's plenty of ways to die.
And the thing that's ridiculous to me is that, like, the states are putting in all this money to build places like the Ark, where they give you free Narcan, they give you free clean needles, you know, they give you fentanyl test strips, which is great, yes, because there are addicts in the world, but why can't that money be put towards treatment centers that people who don't have the money to go, because 99% of those users out there don't want to be users. I promise you.
No, I definitely agree. I've been around it, I've seen it, and I know too.
So
you don't
hard.
want to be an addict. Once you reach that point, you are not feeling good. You're not living a good life anymore.
Yeah.
Like, your quality of life diminishes the longer you're an addict.
Yes.
Basically is how it is.
Yep. Certainly true. And I mean, even me being 2.5 years sober, it's still a constant battle, you know? I don't have the desire to do meth or heroin. However, and meth, that's something that it disgusts me. Was also diagnosed ADHD by my Suboxone doctor. And so I am medicated, which also helps, I'm sure.
Right.
But if I were to ever have heroin in front of me, I don't know that I could say no. So I avoid it at any and all costs.
Of course. And that's the best way to be, is just to stay away from it. Don't put yourself in a position to even have the chance, you know. It's hard, and sometimes you have to really adjust your life and the people that are around you too, you know. Like,
definitely. And they say, like, you can't change if you stay in the same place. I know it's hard for a lot of people. John, Journey's father, he has been sober multiple times in the 5 years that we've been together on and off, and you know, as soon as he gets bored and one of his friends messages him, you know, it's over. And anybody that's like that, they can try so hard, but it just takes, you know, like you can do it, but you just have to be strong enough to tell those people, you know, no.
Right. Well, that's what I think people, if you've never been in addiction, one of the like hardest things about addiction is once you've stopped and you see those people from the past, you start to remember. You don't think of, I didn't have this, I didn't have money, I didn't have a home, I messed up my car, whatever. You start to feel, God, that felt good when we were hanging out and I was it was so nice, just chilling, just felt good. And then next thing you know, you start to think like you're going to want to go back to that, but you have to be like, no, look at the whole picture. Don't glorify using in the euphoria, because that is such a minimal part of the whole pain that is addiction.
Yeah. Like, and I was in family treatment court for 2.5 years, and when I was getting ready to graduate, I went in and sat down with everybody, and they sat there with me and they helped me build a toolbox. And it's got, like, they printed off my court record, they printed off, you know, police reports, things like that. I had a possession of meth on my record. They pulled that police report, put it in there. Is that a
felony? Or
yep,
is it,
that was
a
felony. Yep. I did the DAGP program and got it expunged though. So,
okay, that's good.
Yep. And you know, when I have moments where I'm like, you know, what if I just took one hit or whatever, I go to that toolbox and I open it up and I'm like, look, I have all my papers in there from CPS when my kids were taken both times.
Right. That's good.
Everything, because then it puts me in that zone that this is what actually comes from that. Like, yes, it feels good in the moment. The first 2 days, 3 days, you feel like you're on top of the world.
Right.
But then it's literally minutes and your world starts to come crashing down and you don't even realize it.
Just a moment.
Last summer, actually, Journey's dad wanted to start seeing her, and I was allowing him to as long as he was coming to my house.
Right.
You know, he didn't have anything with him. He had to take a shower as soon as he got there. I had clean clothes of his at my house for him to put on. You know, you do not bring, and I'm searching your clothes when you're in the shower because
of course.
You're not bringing nothing in the house.
Yeah. And people will. If you don't search them, they will.
Yep. I mean, it would make him go straight to the shower as soon as he got there. But oh shoot, what was I going to say?
You were talking about when he got there and shower and you were going through his clothes. To see, did you lose it? Mm-hmm. That's all right. We can come back if you remember.
This is what addiction does to your brain. Like it's
those moments right there when you're talking and you literally lose it while you're talking. Mm-hmm. That is one of the worst feelings. Like, and that you can only attribute that to using. Like
yes.
that's happened to me a lot, and I dislike that so much because you're just like, I was literally just saying this, mm-hmm. and and it's gone as I'm saying it. Like,
yep.
Oh, what
and
a weird.
I usually have to be reminded of like what I was talking about before that,
mm-hmm.
and yeah, it happens. It literally happens to me every day.
That's crazy.
Multiple times a day, usually.
Right. So, I guess one of the other things though is, did you have any like illnesses or what kind of side effects were you having from using? Like, what kind of changes did your body go through? Because for me, when I was my body went through a lot of changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I've never really been a fat person. I was always skinny even after having kids, except for this last one. But that's okay. I'm totally fine. I tell everybody that this is my sober bod. It's like a dad bod, but better.
For sure.
But my body, losing weight, I was a size 00 after having 2 kids using meth. And when I had relapsed about 6 months after I had gotten sober, and that was right before I quit smoking weed too, finally. So about 6 months after the kids were taken, I relapsed on meth. I was doing it for a few weeks, and then I got locked. My PO locked me up, and I quit everything when I got out. So I was only there for 5 days, but it was enough to scare me off.
For sure.
So, but it was probably a month and a half later when I got pregnant with Journey. And I was a month and a half sober then, but her dad was only 3 days sober the day that she was conceived. And we had never, ever used, in the very beginning of our relationship we did, but we've never used any protection or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing. Fertility, eat for men or women, drug use.
Yep.
And then
Big
when
time.
I got pregnant with her, I weighed 120 pounds. And when the day I gave birth to her, I was 195. So, and then after I left the hospital, I was 165 and have not cared to lose any of it. I don't ever want to go back to being that skinny again.
Right. Do you just feel like you're unhealthy when you're that skinny? Like,
oh, yes. Even before when I wasn't using, before I had ever even done drugs, people have always told me, like, eat a cheeseburger. Well, I worked at Hardee's for 4 years. I've eaten a lot of cheeseburgers.
Right, for sure.
So, it's something like, people get picked on for being fat. People get picked on for being skinny, too. Like,
definitely.
It sucks. I even had considered, at a point in my life, getting some sort of implants, not like breast implants, but like butt or hip or, something, because I had literally nothing.
So
my dad would call a carpenter's dream, flat as a board, easy to nail.
Oh, no. That's what your dad was saying?
That's what he used to say to my mom.
Jeez.
Because, my mom is real small. She's like that, big around. So, yeah. I definitely needed to put some meat on my bones. My skin, my stomach, I've never really had stomach issues, but when I was using meth, not only was I smoking it, but I would eat it. I would wrap it up in, they call it parachuting. I would wrap it in tissue or toilet paper and take it like I was taking a pill.
And that actually is like a good way to do it? Does it?
Well, it's a very unhealthy way.
Well, I'm saying as far as getting it into your system to use it.
It hits you almost immediately because your saliva soaks into it soaks into your mouth.
Like in your gums, you mean? Or?
Well, yep. In when you're swallowing it, you know, and the saliva makes it wet, and then that's absorbing into everything as it goes down.
Right.
You know, so then it's absorbing right into your bloodstream. Eating it, is they say, is actually close to equivalent to shooting it up.
That's crazy.
It is
I would
crazy.
not think that with eating it.
Yep. Just because when you're shooting it up, you're putting it straight into your bloodstream.
Right.
When you're eating it, everything in your body is made to absorb what you're eating or drinking into your bloodstream.
For sure.
Because you're supposed to eat healthy things and do healthy things, not things like that. But my stomach, at least once a month, I wake up in the middle of the night and just throw up. And go back to bed, and I wake up in the morning and I'm like, all right, I'm fine, you know?
See, that's nice though. You're lucky that way. Like,
very.
You don't have any like pain because of it, like after you're throwing up or before.
When I'm throwing up and after I'm throwing up, I usually have like stabbing, shooting pains in my stomach, you know, and it almost feels like they like go through my intestines, like the pain, you know, your intestines kind of go around. It just feels like it's shooting all around in there, you know. And
right.
I also, you know, I was on Suboxone for a long time. When I first started taking Suboxone, it was like 2.5 weeks before I had a bowel movement, and then my body just kind of got normal again. And then when I got off of it again, it was like 2 weeks before another one. And that's not healthy
crazy.
At all.
Right. No, not 2 weeks. That's two a month. Like, no, that's not healthy.
Right. Right. At all, you know. And I mean, if I would take like a stool softener or like Miralax, anything like that, I would throw up.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't even helping. I've been on, my doctor has put me on an anti-nausea med consistently. Like, I have refill after refill if I need it, because especially when I was getting off the Suboxone, but even still, sometimes I so nauseous. Wake up in the morning, everything's fine, get ready for the day, and then all of a sudden I sit down and it's like this heat wave over me, and I start sweating immediately, and I just feel like I'm going to pass out or puke, one of the two. So, but when I take the anti-nausea meds, 9 times out of 10 that helps. And
how often are you taking those?
It's at least a couple times a week still. I mean, it was every day.
That's crazy.
In the beginning, and I really do not like grape flavoring. I love grapes, but I would.
Oh yeah.
Grape flavored anything is disgusting, and the dissolvable tablets that they have are grape flavored.
Mm-hmm.
So that grape plus that like chalky, disintegrating pill taste in your mouth, it just would make me want to puke more. So
I get it.
So then they had to give me the tablets. Well, they don't work immediately like the dissolving ones do. So usually I have to, if I take it with milk, the milk will usually calm my stomach down enough until it kicks in.
Are you using dairy milk? Dairy milk it causes more issues than
not. Does it really?
Yeah. If you switch to
dairy milk.
But if you switch to like a vanilla oat milk and did it, I bet you'd feel even better. Like dairy milk is.
I think I could probably try that.
I try hard to get people off of dairy because I don't believe in it. I get it.
And do you not know who I am, dude?
We're in Wisconsin, and and that's fine. Eat your cheese, but just don't drink milk. That's all I'm saying. Like I substitute the milk with oat milk and eat your cheese. That's what I'm saying.
All right, I can try.
Just try it once. I mean, when I switched, I've never gone back. Like oat milk actually is good.
I just love
right.
Like, and I'm a whole milk drinker too.
Sure.
And a whole gallon a day.
You could get a richer oat milk.
Yeah. It's, growing up I guess I didn't really grow up in a small town. I grew up in Seymour, so the suburb of Eau Claire, basically. And then in high school, when I was in a small town, it's the farming, when I was farming.
Mm-hmm. I get it.
Right out of it.
I get it.
Drink right out of the tub.
And before I had stomach issues, I would drink milk. I didn't think about it, but since 2016, late 2015 to early 2016, when my stomach issues really started getting bad.
That's when Emma was born, and
I've had to really change and get rid of milk. I do oat milk now, and that seems to do really well.
I'm definitely gonna have to try it.
But it can't be Planet Oat doesn't have a lot of fillers. You have to be really careful because they put oils, like a lot of stupid oils in them, like what is it, sunflower oil, stuff like that for fillers.
Well, you're gonna have
so why buy it if it's full of fillers? That's
right.
how I feel.
You're gonna have to tell me what kinds are good then.
For sure. Planet Oats the one that I try to stick with, and you can typically get it everywhere that I've, like, your Woodman's around here.
Planet Oat.
Get your oat milk.
Sponsor.
Yeah, right. Get your oat milk.
Yeah.
That's funny.
If you want to advocate for it, I mean.
Right.
Hey.
So now we actually haven't talked about the actual. So when you had Xavier, there's a big gap between Xavier and Emma. Mm-hmm. What is the actual age gap?
Xavier was born in 2009, and the end of 2009. Emma was born in the beginning of 2016. So Xavier had just turned 6 when I had Emma. And when I was pregnant with Emma, I actually found out that she had kidney issue. It's called hydronephrosis, and it's a blockage between the bladder and the kidney. And I can't remember what the name of the tube is that it was in, the blockage was in. But then when she was 4 months old, I had to be monitored every month at the hospital in Marshfield. Is an hour and a half away.
Right.
And then once I got closer, I had to do it every week. So,
right.
But then at 4 months, she had to have a surgery to remove that blockage. But as soon as, like I had said before, Xavier went to live with my dad when he was 9 months old. His dad and I had split up. He's Hispanic. Nothing. I'm not racist in any way against them. However, they are very family oriented. However, the men are very controlling over their women once they're theirs. Marriage, child, etc.
Right.
So when I got pregnant with Xavier, I was not allowed to work. We got an apartment. It was a 1-bedroom apartment. It was $450 a month. And that included water and electric. So, we barely had any bills. He was working on a farm. He speaks fluent English. And he would work like 16-hour days being the manager of the farm and the Spanish translator. So, wow. I mean, he made $1,600 every 2 weeks. So I did not have to work. I got to stay home with our son. Mm-hmm. Then he came home one night, and he had been gone. Got off work at 10 o'clock, and it was about 2:30 in the morning. And he got home, and he just reeked of tequila. And I told him that if he's going to keep drinking, we weren't going to continue. Then he kept trying to leave. I wasn't going to let him leave. So he put his hands around my throat and pushed me up against the wall. Well, we're arguing, and that woke Xavier up. So he's in the bedroom crying. And, I'm telling him, let go of me. Let me go get our son. Like, Get out of here, dude. And, he had never put his hands on me before like that, So, I, threw me through a loop. And I called the cops. I was scared,
For sure.
When I first started, hanging around with Mexicans, my dad is extremely racist. So my whole life, I was taught to be afraid of black people, Asian people, Mexican people, So I was deathly fucking afraid, And I called the cops, and then he obviously was incarcerated. And when he was there, he had bought me a vehicle when I got pregnant. And while he was incarcerated, he had the spare key, and he sold it.
Oh, jeez.
The guy went to the jail and picked up the keys, I should say, to it, and put $1,800 on his books. And then when I went to go leave, I had Xavier's car seat, walking out to the car, and there's the base of his car seat and a plastic bag with all my belongings sitting where my car was.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Then I was like, what am I going to do now, So my aunt and uncle, the ones that currently have my kids, they helped us get the apartment. Before I was 18, I was living with Mason's aunt, and she had actually stolen my identity, used my social security number and stuff to put XL in my name at her house. Crazy. And never paid the bill. So when I went to get an apartment at 18, they were like, no, you got bad credit. And I was like, how do I have bad credit, And
you shouldn't even have had credit, really.
Right.
At 18
it should have been zero at that point,
yeah,
So, and then, so they had to co-sign for everything, and obviously I wasn't going to let him back. And I wasn't, when you are that young with a baby, alone all the time. You know, I was like, nope, I need to go be with some friends. You know, I went back to town I went to high school in, started hanging out with friends down there. My dad didn't want, you know, it's not that I was out partying every single day, but my dad knew that if I was going somewhere, that I would be taking Xavier with me. You know, not that I would be drinking and driving with him or anything like that, but I would take him, you know. And so he had offered to help take temporary custody of him. Won't go into the details, but it ended up being permanent guardianship. And instead of going to court that day like I should have, my dad's like, you already signed the papers, you don't have to be in court, it's totally fine. And
you were supposed to though, and he told you not to?
Well, it was optional for me to go, you know. So he was like, nope, you don't have to be there, you stay here and watch Xavier. When he was there, or when he he had spilt on the paperwork, he told me, and refilled everything out, just had me sign it. The paperwork all looked the same. The only thing that was different is the temporary and the permanent. I didn't look at it. I trusted my dad.
Crazy.
So that's why he did that with the court thing, because then he's like, now you can't say no. Like, I would have been like, excuse me, no, this is supposed to be a 90-day thing. Then he ended up, him and his girlfriend at that time split up because he took Xavier, and then he ended up starting to see my sister's mom. So that, you know, he just took him. And I was living with him even when all of it happened. And when he got with her and decided to be with her, he told me to get out and took my
crazy.
Kid. It took me 6 months after my son came home when he was 6 years old to get him to call me mom. My dad told him that my name was Sam. Yeah. So, and I mean, I'm grateful that my dad took him.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely grateful, because, you know, he probably could have been taken then. And then what? I was young and dumb then. Would I have even, you know, I love my son to death. He's my number one man. We have a great relationship now. But when you know, when I was 18 years old, I wasn't making good decisions, obviously. You know, a
lot of people aren't.
I'm 32 years old right now, and I'm still struggling with, you know, making decisions. I'm getting a lot better, but so
there's not a lot of people at 18 who can sit here and say I made good decisions.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. And